I want to bring the Congressman Swalwell lawsuit to you tonight for your judgment on whether it will, first of all, survive a motion to dismiss and make its way to trial.
Well, thank you for having me, Lawrence. It will survive a motion to dismiss. It will be tried because it is extremely solid. I've studied it with great care. And when you list those counts, a lot of people might not realize that they are of a very different variety. The first two are based on laws going back to 1871, which are focused not on incitement as such, which might have First Amendment problems. They're focused on conspiracy to interfere with the operations of government, in this case, conspiracy to prevent the certification of the next president. That is count one, which is based on an 1871 law. And then count two involves knowing about the conspiracy, knowing that it is causing harm, and then doing nothing about it. That's basically dereliction of duty. Those two federal counts are extremely solid. Then the other 7 counts are based on specific provisions, not of national law, but of District of Columbia law. For example, count 5 is based on a section of the DC Code, section 223704, which involves the harm that people do when they organize attacks against others based on their race, their ethnicity, or their politics, their political affiliation, their political ideology. Well, obviously, this was an attack, as the president made clear, on those members of Congress who were ready to certify the election of the next president. When you look at these counts carefully, including the 7 that are carefully based on District of Columbia law, they're quite invulnerable to any legal challenge. In my judgment, they raise no constitutional problems. The factual allegations are very specific, and they meet all of the requirements that would be applied by someone who wanted to dismiss them. And it's not only, as you said, Lawrence, every member of Congress who could file similar suits, but what about the survivors of the Capitol Police who were injured or killed? What about the people who were terrorized, who were calling home to say goodbye to their loved ones? This is a very serious lawsuit, and it is going to be an important way for accountability to take place, even if for various political or other reasons, the criminal prosecutions do not land Donald Trump in an orange jumpsuit. These lawsuits are going to provide financial compensation and punitive damages to the many people who were terribly hurt by this insurrection. The people of the United States will not be fully compensated, that's for sure. But the people who were at the Capitol, who were the direct victims of this attack, will, I think, receive a measure of justice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank all of you out there.
Thank you as always.
Thanks to at home.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much for letting us into your homes during these extraordinary times.